Hey guys! Alright, this is part 3 of Urza's story, and I'm just gonna get right back into it. If you haven't watched my part 1 or part 2 video, I'd suggest starting with them, as they cover some pretty important points. Alright, here we go! The sky split, and the air crackled and roiled. The Phyrexian invasion of Dominaria had finally begun. Over Benalia, 3 gigantic portals opened in the sky, and Phyrexian fighter ships came pouring out of them. Will history remember this as the day demons arrived, or the day saviors arrived? All of the forces of Dominaria banded together to stop Yawgmoth. There were the elves of Llanowar. There were Urza's Metathraan. There was Gerard Capuchin, commander of the Weatherlight. During the invasion, Multani, the Marrow Sorcerer, dissipated all his power to move a section of Yavimaya to the front of Urborg to help in the war. Urza said, "My army took centuries to gather. Yavimaya seems to conjure hers out of thin air." The skyship Weatherlight was able to close 2 of the portals, but then it became powerless. The 3rd portal was attacked by Baron, Urza, and his artificial falcons. They were able to successfully close the portal. Other portals soon appeared. Baron stayed in Benalia to continue the fight, while Urza took off on a mission of his own. Urza took on the disguise of a blind seer, and he found Gerard Capuchin, the commander of the Weatherlight. Gerard had been arrested by Benalish guards for bringing the Weatherlight into a peaceful city. Soon the Phyrexian invasion reached the Benalian city, and Gerard and his crew broke free. At this point, Urza, disguised as the blind seer, took off and went to go rejoin Baron. Yawgmoth's general at the head of the Phyrexian troops was Tsavo Tavok. She was in charge of leading the opening stages of the Phyrexian invasion. Tsavo Tavok was a female of a monstrous humanoid race. She had been altered by the Phyrexians. She had a mechanical torso with 8 spider legs, segmented insect eyes, a detached mouth that could open larger than humans, and to top it all off, she had poison injectors attached to her torso. Tsavo Tavok was highly ambitious and confident. She said, "I might almost pity my enemies if it wasn't so amusing to watch them die." By the time Urza returned to Baron, it was a lost cause. Baron and Urza went to find Teferi, who was in the process of defending his homeland, Jamara. Urza told Teferi, "Think of the problems we'll face if you uproot entire continents." Teferi replied, "I have, but the alternative is worse." Teferi removed most of northeastern Jamara from the time stream, leaving only a gaping ocean where it had once been. His homeland was now safe from the horrors of Phyrexia. Except now, Jamara was not able to help defend the rest of Dominaria. Urza and Baron were furious about the loss of Jamara. Benalia was already destroyed, and Urza sent Baron off to Keld to help defend the barbarians. Urza then went to Urborg. Urza said, "Everything is in place. Nothing can happen that isn't part of my plan." Urza found Urborg overwhelmed by Phyrexian horrors. It wouldn't be long until Yawgmoth had control of this site as well. Urza then went to check on Yavimaya's defenses. For once, he found a pleasant surprise. Yavimaya was holding strong, and it was not going to fall prey to the Phyrexians anytime soon. The Phyrexians use glistening oil, or Phyrexian oil, to spread corruption. It is a viral substance that was specifically engineered by Yawgmoth. Glistening oil is both a contagion and a means of colonization. It is used to complete creatures into Phyrexians, and it powers Phyrexian machines. Great peril demands formidable weaponry. Urza created 9 Titan engines to assist against the Phyrexians' attack. The Titan engines were huge artifact creations. Each Titan was controlled and powered by a planeswalker, and the Titan engines grew to emulate the planeswalker's characteristics. In addition to this, each Titan engine had a vast arsenal of weaponry. They contained a series of Falcon engines, which were inspired by Urza's friend Thanos. These Falcon engines could detect glistening oil, dive towards it, and then once inside the Phyrexian, they burst apart and destroyed it. The Titan engines also had rocket launchers located on the wrists, mana cannons, as well as colossal hands and feet that could crush hundreds of Phyrexians at a time. They were essentially giant mech suits for planeswalkers. When combined with the planeswalkers' formidable powers, each and every Titan was a force to be reckoned with. There were 9 Titan engines total, and therefore 9 planeswalkers that controlled them. Urza said, "This is a battle of pawns, for the highest stakes imaginable." The first planeswalker was Lord Windgrace, a cat warrior, specifically a black panther from Urborg. Lord Windgrace said, "Phyrexia is an unforgiving place, and I am an angry lord in an unforgiving mood." The second planeswalker was initially going to be Parcher, but he was replaced by Christina of the Woods. This was probably a wise choice, because Parcher is kind of a lunatic, and he might have been too crazy to work with. Christina of the Woods is a planeswalker native to Corridor on Dominaria. Her planeswalker spark manifested after the creation of the Shard of the 12 Worlds. The third planeswalker to pilot a Titan engine was Freyalise, a half-elven planeswalker from Dominaria. The fourth planeswalker was Taser of Rabaya. He was the most powerful of all the pre-revisionist planeswalkers, and where he stands compared to Urza is debatable. His life was long and complicated. He went from being a victim to becoming a hero, and then a villain, and then back to a hero again. His story is insanely convoluted because the story of his plane is insanely convoluted. The fifth planeswalker in a mech suit was Daria, a young human girl from Ulgrotha. Her planeswalker spark triggered early in life. Daria was an orphan who had been adopted and apprenticed by Taser after he was reborn. The sixth planeswalker was Beau Levar. He was an interplanar smuggler who specialized in transporting goods across the boundaries of the planes. The next planeswalker was Tevesh Szat. It was surprising that Urza chose him to pilot a Titan engine because Tevesh Szat was a recurring evil force in Dominarian history. Several times he plunged continents and the entire plane into utter chaos. He did have some previous dealings with the Phyrexians, so he had some knowledge on the layout of the plane. The eighth Titan engine held Commodore Groff, a very old planeswalker who lived in a hidden library in Dominaria. His library contained every book ever written, including books that hold the destiny of the multiverse. He joined Urza's crusade even though he knew that the Phyrexians were going to win. Beau Levar discovered that Commodore Groff knew that the Phyrexians were going to win, so Beau Levar convinced him to try and change the outcome. Teferi was supposed to control a Titan engine, but he phased out. The ninth planeswalker to pilot an engine was of course Urza. Yawgmoth tried to invade Dominaria using the land-based portal in the Caves of Koios. Urza knew that the Phyrexians were going to try and take over this permanent portal in the Caves of Koios. Urza was determined to stop Yawgmoth and to never allow him re-entrance. Urza convinced many Dominarians not only to set aside their differences, but to embrace them. Urza said, "Our victory must come from all of Dominaria, or it will not come." They all fought together against Yawgmoth and tried to push him back. When the Metatran commander Thaddeus was killed, he was replaced by Eladamri from Wrath. Urza, Gerard, Eladamri, and the Metatran continued to fight back against the Phyrexian invasion. So far, all of this fighting was only the first stage in the Phyrexian invasion. The second stage began when the Plane of Wrath finally overlaid onto Dominaria. Millions of tons of flowstone were deposited on the shores of Dominaria, along with tens of billions of Phyrexian invaders. The flavor text on Callous Giant says, "The invasion has awoken slumbering mountains," noted Urza. "Good, we can use all the help we can get." Urza and the other 8 planeswalkers had to respond quickly. They attempted to teleport their armies to locations all around the plane to respond to the new threats. Urza, the Weatherlight, and most of the Metatran went to Urborg because this was the greatest source of black mana on Dominaria, and Urza believed that the stronghold would appear here. After briefly fighting off the Phyrexians in Urborg, Urza returned to Talaria to meet up with the other 8 planeswalkers. Using the power of the Titan suits, the 9 planeswalkers entered Phyrexia and began to destroy the artificial plane in one final attempt to protect Dominaria. Freyalise bought the Planeswalkers the time they needed by clearing a path through the misshapen hell of Phyrexia. During the battle, Tevesh-Szat turned to the side of the Phyrexians and he betrayed his fellow Planeswalkers. He convinced Daragaz to free the primeval dragons, and Tevesh-Szat also killed both Daria and Christina of the Woods. Urza had predicted this betrayal all along, and he had only asked for Tevesh-Szat's aid in the first place so that Urza could solve the dilemma of powering up a super weapon using Tevesh-Szat's life energy. The flavor text on the card Confound displays this. It says, "Did I know Szat would betray us? I was counting on it." Urza was able to defeat Tevesh-Szat and use the power from his life force to charge together the soul bombs that Urza planned to use to destroy Phyrexia. You see, soul bombs are extremely powerful explosive devices built based on Thran design, and the only way to fuel them is by capturing a potent enough soul. Baron had argued with Urza that there was no ethical way to charge the soul bombs. Baron said that no mortal crime could be severe enough to merit the immortal punishment of being used to fuel the devices, and that the number of mortal souls necessary to power the bombs was monstrous. Urza knew that Tevesh-Szat's single immortal soul would be powerful enough to charge all the devices, which is why he included Tevesh-Szat as one of the 9 Titans. Tevesh-Szat's betrayal was so devastating to the fate of Dominaria that Urza felt it justified using his soul for the soul bombs. The Planeswalkers were trying to set the bombs around the plane of Phyrexia so that they could destroy it in a chain explosion. Urza knew Tevesh-Szat would betray the group, and once he lived up to these expectations by murdering Daria and Christina of the Woods, Urza then had enough cause to activate the kill rubric in Tevesh-Szat's Titan engine. Urza said, "After 4,000 years, you learn to plan for betrayal." Once again, this demonstrates how little value Urza places on people's lives. In the end of the battle, Urza was unable to complete his lifetime goal of destroying the artificial plane of Phyrexia. He had the opportunity to do it, but Urza began to doubt himself. He wondered if it was moral to destroy an entire world, and he even began to wonder if Yawgmoth was really that bad. After all, Yawgmoth was able to hold power over an entire world of perfect creatures. Urza found himself fascinated by the fact that the plane had been created completely artificially. In the end, Urza decided he was unwilling to destroy a place that was so full of potential knowledge. Urza surrendered himself to Yawgmoth, the ruler of Phyrexia. Yawgmoth wanted to put Urza through some tests before he allowed him to enter his inner sanctum. So Yawgmoth commanded Urza to enter the 7th sphere of Phyrexia. This sphere was a place of torture. Anyone who failed Yawgmoth was doomed to spend eternity here in torment. There were millions of beings in this sphere, but one specific one caught Urza's attention. Deep in Yawgmoth's realm, Urza stopped dead in his tracks and rubbed his soup-filled eyes. It was Mishra. All this time, for 42 centuries, Mishra had been alive, and he had been tormented here. Mishra pleaded with Urza. He wanted to be freed from this horrible place. He wanted to die in quiet agony. But Urza realized that this was a test by Yawgmoth. If Yawgmoth had decided that Mishra deserved this torture, then that's how it needed to be. Only Yawgmoth's will mattered. When Urza gave this response, Yawgmoth allowed Urza to enter the inner sanctum of Phyrexia. Not long after Urza entered the center of Phyrexia, a portal appeared and Gerard Capuchin came through it. Gerard had made a deal to trade his life for the life of his love, Hannah. Gerard promised to serve Yawgmoth for the rest of eternity. Both Gerard and Urza were now subject to their new master, Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth revived Hannah using his dark magic. Then Yawgmoth told his 2 new servants that only one of them could become his new right hand. Yawgmoth commanded that Urza and Gerard fight each other. If Gerard won, Hannah would be given her freedom. If Urza won, he would learn all the knowledge his vast mind could comprehend. Urza told Gerard, "Before the glory of Yawgmoth, yes, even this makes sense." Yawgmoth then took away Urza's planeswalker powers and gave both Urza and Gerard an arsenal of weapons unlike any they had ever seen before. They danced like puppets to a tune only Yawgmoth could hear. Urza almost defeated Gerard twice, but in each attempt, Yawgmoth chastised Urza for using cowardly and indirect tactics. Yawgmoth's greatest joy came from watching one hero defeat another. The combat restarted for the third time, and this time, Gerard beheaded Urza, and Gerard became Yawgmoth's new champion. Fortunately, Gerard was able to betray Yawgmoth and escape from the stronghold. Gerard Capuchin took Urza's severed head with him and went back to the transformed Weatherlight. Even though Urza lost his body, he wasn't dead. The beheading only had a minor effect on Urza, because his life was contained within his Mightstone and Weakstone eyes. Urza's powers were greatly weakened, but he was still alive and able to speak. Commodore Groff had begun to erase the important parts in his books now that Phyrexia had lost the invasion. Yawgmoth was so enraged by the escape of his new champion Gerard that he entered Dominaria and transformed himself into a massive black plague cloud. Yawgmoth then began to smother the world. Commodore Groff was then killed by Yawgmoth in the Death Cloud form. The Weatherlight attempted to stop Yawgmoth by using the stored up white mana in the Null Moon. The Null Moon is one of 2 satellites that orbit Dominaria. It is also called the Glimmer Moon or the Null Sphere. It was originally a Thran design to control the Empire's artifact warriors, but during the Thran Civil War, Yawgmoth had taken control of it and used it to turn the artifact creatures on their masters. During the Thran Civil War, Yawgmoth also attempted to use the Null Moon to protect its Phyrexian forces from Stone Charger weapons. However, the Sphere's operators rebelled and sacrificed themselves to jettison the Sphere into orbit. This lowered Yawgmoth's protective magic and caused his army to be wiped out by the weapons. This was a long time ago, and since then, the Null Sphere has remained in orbit, but its original purpose was forgotten. Now, once again, the Null Sphere was going to play a role in defeating Yawgmoth. After it was launched into orbit, the Null Sphere built up quite a lot of white mana. Gerard Capuchin was hoping that this could be used to slay the now godlike Yawgmoth. Gerard took the Weatherlight to the far side of the moon and had the ship go straight through it. The sphere cracked and released mana through the Weatherlight and into Yawgmoth. It did successfully deal a massive amount of damage to Yawgmoth, but it ultimately failed to kill him. It did, however, result in the death of the Weatherlight's consciousness. The Null Moon itself survived, but it now had a large hole, and it no longer glimmered because the white mana that caused the glimmer was no longer inside it. After another failed attempt to stop Yawgmoth, Urza told the Weatherlight's crew the final secret of the Legacy Weapon. The Legacy Weapon was Urza's collection of artifacts that could work in conjunction to defeat Yawgmoth. In order to fire the weapon, they needed to combine various pieces together during their journey, as well as the 2 stones in Urza's head, Karn's body, and Gerard's life. Urza and Gerard died during the activation, and the weapon destroyed Yawgmoth. There is speculation on whether or not Yawgmoth is actually dead. There's a slight possibility that he might still be alive, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Karn survived the activation of the Legacy Weapon and was now infused with Urza's Spark and the power unleashed by the Legacy Weapon. Karn took up Urza's staff and left Dominaria. This is where we are going to leave the story. In the early years of Magic the Gathering, there aren't a lot of stories with happy endings. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any requests on lore videos that I do, just go ahead and throw it in the comments, and love to do it. Oh, one other thing. Magic the Gathering does a great job of really throwing a lot of detail into its characters' stories. So, if you're interested and want to know more, you can always read the books, which I highly recommend them. And they're not even that expensive. I think I got these for like a penny. I just found them on Amazon, and they're really, really good. As you can see, I've got more behind me. They're not that long. They're really good. Recommend them. And you know what? If you can't be bothered to read an entire book, that's okay. I'm going to continue making these videos so then you can just watch my summaries of them. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button or subscribe. If you have any other videos you'd like me to do, maybe on a different planeswalker, just let me know in the comments and I will try and make that. Thank you so much. Bye!